1 month from today, on October 25th, we are getting the Outer Worlds. In this video, what I wanted to do is actually give you a pretty good idea of what you can expect from this game and what you can't expect from this game. Right around its initial announcement, this game had a lot of positive press and discussion around it, but since then, things have definitely died down a little bit. So if you're one of those people that has been kind of loosely following the game or not watching every trailer, every gameplay, in this video, I want to give you a good overview of just about everything we know about the game, hitting on many of the major features or mechanics that you should care about. So hopefully you could get a good idea as to whether or not this is something you'll continue to follow over the next month, or maybe it's not for you. So just some of the bigger picture stuff to check off the list. The Outer Worlds will be a single player only, first person only space game. Space game meaning it's set in space, and although you're going to have your own ship in this game, you're not going to be manually controlling and flying around your own ships. You'll just be going from one planet to another. At its heart, it's really a story and character driven RPG. You'll start out this game as the stranger and truly build your character into somebody, choosing which way you want to take things. You're a non-voice protagonist, and it's not like you have any real identity before you start the game. You're a nobody. And in fact, in this game, you're basically described as the stranger, similar to how in past Fallout games you're described as the sole survivor. The Outer Worlds is confirmed to not feature any microtransactions, which a lot of people are happy about. What some people aren't happy about is the fact that the Outer Worlds actually isn't going to be coming to Steam until 2020, 1 year after its initial release. Until then, it will be on the Epic Game Store. You could also buy it on the Private Division Store as well as through Microsoft Store. And actually, a really handy piece of information, this will actually be offered day one through Xbox Game Pass. So if you're already subscribed to that service, it's a really good way to even just try out this game. And again, the release date is 1 month from when this video goes live, so October 25th. So naturally, one of the big comparisons, and actually one of the big pushes with this game, is its comparisons to Fallout. It's being developed by Obsidian Entertainment, who developed Fallout New Vegas, as well as the two directors on this game actually were the original creators of the Fallout franchise. So is this just Fallout New Vegas in space? No, but kind of. I know that's what a lot of people are hoping for with this game, and although in some ways it definitely is delivering, in other ways it is different. Although even Obsidian is describing how if you like New Vegas, you'll probably like this game also. So some of the things it isn't going to do that Fallout New Vegas did, well, first, obviously it's not actually Fallout, but then two of the other big distinctions are this actually isn't an open world game. There are two major planets. One of these is actually an open world, but one of the other ones is described as more of a linear planet. You go from section to section, and it's not like it's a proper open world like what you saw in Fallout. And that linear planet is where a lot of the colonization has occurred and where a big focus of this game overall will be. But the game still does feature a lot of that open world functionality. You can do the quests you want, when you want to, where you want to. After the game starts, it kind of opens up, allowing you to pretty much do whatever you want. But also, one of the other big differences is this is actually not a AAA game. It's a AA game, meaning it's a bit of a smaller scale with a smaller budget. So it's probably not going to be quite as large as something like Fallout New Vegas or other AAA games. Not meaning it's bad, but just to expect something a little bit on the smaller side. They mentioned in the past how certain features weren't added as a result of this, trying to use their time wisely. That's why we don't have third person, that's why we don't have romanceable companions. And also one of the other big things, although this may get mod support one day, at least at launch that won't be included. Obviously mod support being a massive part of Fallout New Vegas. But in a lot of other ways, this really is almost a Fallout New Vegas Plus, taking a lot of the ideas from that game and actually improving on them. As I mentioned before, it still is going to be open world-esque, meaning you could do quests for whoever you want, side with whatever factions you want. They've detailed how a kill everyone playthrough is possible, so if you just want to go gun blazing all the time, you could do that, but also other things like a total stealth playthrough and a lot of other options opened up by whatever perks or skills you spec'd out in. Similar to New Vegas, one of the major selling points of this game is going to be the true consequence and choice that comes with it. We know it's going to be a dialogue heavy game. There's going to be a lot of dialogue just that you experience talking to others often, but also a lot of this dialogue is really well done and opens up a lot of options for you. This is going to have a similar dark humor to what we saw with some older Fallout games, as well as things like the dumb dialogue system are making a return. So if you have very low intelligence, you'll have unique options here, some of which are pretty cool and actually open up additional doors for you. Similar to this, depending on some of your other skills or perks, you'll have other speech checks checks or skill checks. These could be combat focused or just the typical charisma or persuasion or lying focused. It's been described numerous times that it's really meant to be one of those games that you could play how you want to play it. Do you want to go guns blazing all of the time? Do you want to sneak through things all of the time? Do you want to be the good guy, the bad guy? Do you want to use combat to pass certain checks? Do you want to use just speech to pass certain checks? There's a lot of different options here, and one of the major selling points of this game is the choice and consequence, but also the impacts that will actually have, what doors it'll open or close for you. We know that depending on how you interact or deal with certain people, companions and other NPCs will react to it. If you kill somebody, they're going to notice, and it's going to have an impact. There's going to be two major endings depending on which choices you make, either siding with the corporations or siding with Phineas, which we'll get a bit more into in a moment. But after that, there's a lot of smaller consequences from this also. Similar to Fallout New Vegas, the Outer Worlds is going to have a slideshow ending showing you the results of some of the actions you took throughout this game. And as a result of all of that, this is a very replayable game, and that's actually one of the big selling points with this. You're not meant to just play this once, but rather play it multiple times, checking out some of those different options or even play styles. Which, speaking of play styles, the skill and perk system in this is very well fleshed out. I would actually argue almost a little bit more so than New Vegas. As you create your character, you'll have the typical options in appearance, but also an aptitude that will give you a set bonus throughout the entire game. This is basically what your job was before you were frozen on the ship, so it's kind of what skills you just have ingrained in you. But then as you're starting things out, one of the first major decisions and real guiding points for that character will be your attributes. You can see all of the attributes here on screen, and basically the option you're going to have here is to either increase or decrease these, using or gaining points as a result. You'll only have a limited number of points to go around, so maybe you want really high strength and dexterity, and you could have that, but it'll come at a cost in one of the other areas. These attributes will give you explicit things, such as charm, affecting faction reputation, and companion ability cooldowns, but also increasing your skills in certain categories, like strength giving you bonuses to some of your melee weapons, heavy weapons, and even some other things. And that's just really the first point of this. Then you actually get into the skills. Every 20 points in a skill, you'll get a new perk or bonus from that skill. After level 50, you have to put in points individually to these skills. Initially, you upgrade skills by category, but after a certain point, you have to upgrade the skills individually, making it so as you get to the later game, you really have to focus your character in certain areas. And then after even all of that, we have perks, which you only get every couple levels, and there's 3 tiers of. These providing, like perks in many other games, just certain bonuses to your characters or unlocking new things. But even that still isn't all. After all of that, you also have flaws. Basically, while playing the game, something bad might happen, like you might get hit in the head numerous times. This will allow you to take a flaw on your character, which will come with a downside, like with getting hit in the head too many times, it'll lower your intelligence, but it will allow you to take another perk, which is going to be very sought after. Some of these perks are very powerful, and there's only a limited number you could take in a given playthrough, but whatever flaw you take will now permanently affect you through that entire playthrough. And really, taking that all together, there's a lot of customizability even just on the character side. What you want your character to do, and in effect, who you want your character to be during your playthrough. You can go in many different directions with this, giving you a totally different playstyle and thus totally different outcomes. Similar to that, I would say compared to Fallout New Vegas, we also see a lot more love to some of the weapons in this game. New Vegas definitely had cool weapons, but in this game, there's just a lot going on with combat and weapons overall. The first thing to pay attention to is the weapon manufacturer. Corporations play a major role in the Outer Worlds, and who makes your weapon will have a fairly large impact on what kind of weapon it is. Is it a high quality hammersmith piece? Is it something lower quality but cheaper by Spacer's Choice? There's a variety of companies here, all having different pros and cons, like some being more customizable than others. Yes, weapon modding is a feature of this game. You have to use it at crafting tables, but even outside of that, things like weapon and armor repair are major components of this, making a return from New Vegas. Gunplay has certainly been one of those things to get a little bit of criticism around this game. I personally kind of enjoyed it. I think one of the coolest parts of this is you do have a bullet time, tactical time dilation effect, and if you actually spec this out highly enough, you could actually get the option to maim or injure enemies in specific ways. You could attack their head to blind them, their arms to make them injured and not be able to use their weapon. There's a lot of options here, and it actually makes combat quite a bit more interesting and dynamic. Although yes, the combat still isn't on par with other main FPS games, but this is an RPG. The combat, at least in my eyes, was good enough for what this game overall was trying to be. So as a result of that and all those different customization options and different brands to purchase from, there's a lot of options as far as weapons go. But of course, also applicable here, there's a wide variety of armor armors. These will actually give you pros and cons, so they'll increase a certain stat, but sometimes also decrease a certain stat. Same thing goes for some of the outfits in the game, and overall it seemed like the outfits increased your stats more so than armors. So while armors provided more protection, an outfit might actually give you a bit of extra bonus to some of your speech skills. But one of the major breakaway points from New Vegas is that with the Outer Worlds, Obsidian is really wanting to break that buggy game on release reputation that they have currently. When I played this game a couple of months ago now, it felt very polished, like it had a lot of quality of life features, like people were actually playing this and had time to add in cool things like that, and it seems like it's a major focus from Obsidian, so hopefully a month from now when we actually get our hands on this, it will be in a very playable and bug-free state. Taking a broader look at some things, the overall world of the Outer Worlds is a pretty interesting one. It diverts from traditional history in the early 1900s. In the world of the Outer Worlds, the trust busting that went on with FDR just never happened. So some of these corporations grew larger and larger, and eventually as technology permitted, they actually started buying up planets, which is what we see in the Outer Worlds. A group of 10 corporations banded together as the board and actually bought 2 planets, Terra 1 and Terra 2, which is going to be the main setting of this game. Terra 1 is also known as Monarch. They attempted to colonize this planet, but it actually failed. So this planet has a lot more wildlife. It's overall a bit more dangerous, and it doesn't have as many of the towns. This also is the open world planet. Conversely, Terra 2 did have successful colonization. This is also known as Halcyon, but even though colonization was a success here, many of the things are now old, and the planet and its towns are starting to get a bit run down. Corporations and classism plays a very large role in the Outer Worlds. You are judged based off your job, your loyalty to some of your employers, and that's going to be one of the major themes you see all throughout this game. The people in Halcyon are basically deluded. They think the corporation and working is life. That is what you live to do. And they hold many of the corporations in very high regard. Conversely, the people on Monarch feel very differently about these places. In effect, we were in one of the colony ships en route to these planets, but we actually got diverted. We were pushed off course, so we end up arriving 70 years late. We're kind of just left floating in space when the scientist Phineas actually wakes us up from our cryo sleep and sends us down to the planet, hoping to get help to actually wake up all the other people held in cryo sleep. That's one of the major plot points starting off this game, but as you progress, you'll have the option to actually side with the board or with Phineas. But of course, with this being a game focused around choice and consequence, you could double cross one or the other. It's actually been described in interviews how you could really become the main antagonist of this game. One of the other major components of the Outer Worlds that is new or different is a refocus on companions. Basically, in the Outer Worlds, you're going to have your own ship that you get pretty early on in the game. This will allow you to travel from one planet to the other. Your ship almost is a character in its own right. It has its own AI, Ada, that you can interact with, but it also acts as your hub for all of your various companions. In the Outer Worlds, there's a new skill known as leadership, and this actually will give bonuses specifically to your companions, making them a lot more powerful. And put simply, companions in this game overall are quite strong. They're going to have their own special abilities that they can use. They have stat bonuses, so they'll actually increase some of your own stats as they level up. This will be increased further. They have their own quests that you can unlock and complete from them, and even further, they'll actually interject in dialogue, so you can almost have four-way conversations at times. And finally, one of the other really interesting parts of this that I wanted to point out is for those of you that are hardcore RPG fans, this will have a supernova difficulty. This will add in a lot of the cool or interesting components like eating, sleeping, having to care about some of the survival components. It's going to make it just all around a bit harder to heal, restricting some things to only being healable on your ship. Companions can die permanently, and even further, when you get one of those flaw prompts, whether or not you want to take a flaw, in supernova mode you have to take this. So if you get hit in the head one too many times, you might just be permanently dumber, which has a very large impact. But either way, yeah, that's a good overview of all the major things you can expect from the Outer Worlds. Hopefully watching this video you felt like it was informative. Hopefully you feel like now you have a better idea of what to expect from this game in just 1 month's time. I'm personally really excited for this one. I'm planning to do a lot of coverage of this, probably doing full live streams and full playthroughs on this channel, as well as just showing you tips and tricks on how to find all kinds of different things. But until then, as always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.